Hello students, welcome back to our channel Study Shastra. In this video, we are going to study about the class 12th topics which were in the Indian economy book, and we are going to start the series, and today we are doing the chapter first of this. So, the very first introduction of the chapter is that India, which is an independent and self-reliant economy, has in its 18th century a primarily focused sector which is agricultural economy. It was also very well developed in its handicraft industries, and the prominent handicraft industries were silk textiles, cotton textiles, gold, silver, and many more. Now, as India has very much amount of population engaged in agriculture sector, we can also say that the agriculture sector is the backbone of the economy at that time period. But what happened at that time is that there were some land revenue systems, high degree of vulnerability, commercialization of agriculture sector, and partition of the country, which somehow declined or affected the agriculture sector to be a stagnation point. Now, the causes of stagnation in the agriculture sector during colonial period were that Britishers adopted zamindari systems, which resulted in the exploitations of tenures and tenants, and irrigation facilities were not available at that time. Mostly we know that the whole agriculture sector is based on monsoon. At that time period, the technology was not so much upgraded, and it was very backward, and there was very limited use of pesticides. So these are some factors on which the agriculture stagnation depends. Now, talking about the industrial sector, if we talked about industrial sector, we know that the economic policies pursued by British government in India led to India becoming an exporter of raw materials and importer of finished goods from Britain. To sell British manufactured good in Indian market at high prices is the basic motto behind it. But all these international transactions helps the Indian economy in a negative way. It affects its agriculture production, which will go on low productivity. India was famous for its handicraft industry, but there was deindustrialization for that. Britishers had monopoly over the foreign trade of India. As a result, India became the exporter of raw materials and importer of finished goods. Now, the decline of handicraft industry is the most important topic in this chapter because according to the British rule in India, there was continuously deindustrialization or decline of handicraft industry as Indian goods could not compete with the Britain machine-made goods, and the tariff-free exports of raw material from India to Britain and tariff-free import of British industrial products into India along with heavy duties was directly implied a loss of domestic as well as foreign markets for Indian handicraft products. And if we say that prior to British rule, there were Nawabs and Rajas who used to patronize the handicrafts, but there was a continuously disappearance of them after the Britishers came in the Indian economy. And the Britishers adopted discriminatory tariff policies, which we have further discussed, that tariff-free exports and all. And this resulted very much to the handicraft industries. Basically, indigenous goods lost their market to the growing demand for British products, and there was a development of means of transport which accelerated the process of decline in the handicrafts industries. Moreover, the handicraft industry's declination affects unemployment in the economy because Indian economy is very good in its handicraft industry, and if there was no demand for handicraft goods, then this directly means that there was unemployment. People will lose their job, and this will directly impact the economy. There was a slow growth of modern industries as the cotton textile mills were mainly dominated by Indians, and they were aware that they were located in different parts of the Indian sectors. On the other hand, jute mills in Bengal as well as various textiles industries were set up. The focus of the Britishers was mainly on the construction of infrastructure like railways, development of ports, means of communication, more rather than establishing more industries or working on the agriculture sector. The two main drawbacks of the industrial sector was that the growth rate of industrial sector and its contributing to the GDP was very small at that time, and there was a limited area of operation of the public sector in the economy due to various kind of policies implemented by the Britishers, and public sector in those days was confined only to railways, power generation, communications and such. Now, during the British rule, British traders were given government protections and help, while Indian traders had to bear to various restrictions. So we can say that there is foreign trade as going on, but India's main export items were primarily silk, cotton, wood, gold, silver, and which were majorly imports to Britain and exports to Britain, and major imports were finished goods, consumer goods such as cotton, silk, woolen clothes, capital goods, etc. There was a direction of the foreign trade that during its British rule, Britain maintained almost a monopoly over the Indian economy as well as its trade. So we can say that more than 50% of India's foreign trade was restricted to British, and rest was shared by the other countries like China, Persia, etc. And the opening of Suez Canal further intensified the effect of British discriminatory trade policy, which is again an important factor of this foreign trade in Indian economy at the eve of independence. If we talked about the demographic profile at that time period, so India was the first stage of demographic transition till 1921. Then India entered the second stage of demographic transition, and there was a consistent rise in the population of the country. And after that, in 1921, basically recognized as the year of great divide in the history of demographic transition in India. But the main focus at that time was on high birth rate and death rate in the economy. That birth rate was nearly about this percent, and which is below 1921's data, and similarly the low literacy rate. So we can directly say that there was high birth and death rate, and as well we can directly say that population is going on. So we can say that there will be high birth rate and death rates, but there was very low literacy rate. Almost very few people were educated at that time period. There were poor health facilities in the economy. Infant mortality rate was very high, and there was very low life expectancy. That life expectancy was very low, about 32 years are compared to 68 years at the present somehow. If we talked about the occupational structure at that time period, so we can say during the colonial period, the occupational structure of India, that is the distribution of working personnel, which is across the different industries, is the main factor. And the agriculture sector was accounted for the largest share of workforce, which is usually remained at a high of 70 to 75%, while the manufacturing and the service sectors accounted for almost only 10 to 15% at that time period. And there was a striking aspect which was growing at the regional variations, and there were parts such as Madras Presidency comprising areas of present day states of Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, etc. Bombay and Bengal witnesses a decline in the dependence of workforce on agriculture sector with the increase in the manufacturing and service sector. So yeah, as it is on its way to grow, so there were some unbalances in the economy, and unbalanced growth is clearly visible. So yeah, infrastructure was the main target of the Britishers, and they focused on roads, railways, as they were very much used for as a means of transport to export and import. So they mainly focus on these infrastructures, and they also focus on air and water transport, which also helps them to export and import. So yeah, these were some of the policies of British rules which exploited the Indian economy. That is There was no irrigation facilities and technology was not up to date or upgraded. British rulers forced the Indian farmers to pay more attention to the production of cash crops rather than food crops, and there was a decline in the handicraft industries. There was basically no protection provided to the India's infant industries, which were declining very, very fast, and heavy import duties were imposed on the use of Indian ships for trading between the India and the other countries. And the financial and the banking institutions were not promoted in the country at that time period very much. Discriminatory trade policy further affected this exploitation, and British capital was invested mainly only the infrastructure sector rather than any kind of development factor, which helps the Indian economy to grow in its industries and service sectors as well, or agriculture sector. So the positive contribution of British rule was that there was effective administration, there was infrastructure development, there was commercialization of agriculture, and there was some monetary exchange of money in the economy with the other countries due to foreign trades. And we can also add some points such as they have given a break to geographical and cultural barriers, which mostly affects the economy to trade. So yeah, the last topic which we have to learn right now is the large export surplus, which depends on the volume of trade and directions of trade. So there was huge export surplus and exports were more than imports during 1950s, we can directly say, and India's exports and imports were estimated around 403 crore and 389 crores, which show that our export surplus was more than the imports, and the export surplus did not bring gold, silver in the country. Rather, this surplus was used to make payments for the expenses of Indian offices set up in Britain. So yeah, again, this is also affecting the economy. I hope you understand about the topic so briefly and learn about it. This is the chapter 1 of Indian economy book, which is Indian economy on the eve of independence. Please subscribe our channel, and we bring our series of this. So please like, subscribe our channel and stay tuned. Thank you for watching.